considered by many to be the black sheep of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is this the worst film in the series? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Kabiga's Reviews, and these are my thoughts, my opinions, my review, and my feelings on Thor, the Dark World. Directed by Alan Taylor and starring Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Christopher Eccleston as Malekith, Sir Anthony Hopkins as Odin, Rene Russo as Frigga, Idris Elba as Heimdall, Ray Stevenson as Volstagg, Jamie Alexander as Lady Sif, Zachary Levi as Fandral, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, Stellan Skarsgård as Eric Selvig, and Kat Dennings as Darcy Lewis, among others. In ancient times, the gods of Asgard fought and won a war against an evil race known as the Dark Elves. The survivors were neutralised, and their ultimate weapon, the Aether, was buried in a secret location. Hundreds of years later, Jane Foster finds the Aether and becomes its host, forcing Thor to bring her to Asgard before the Dark Elf Malekith captures her and uses the weapon to destroy all the 9 realms, including Earth. Much like Iron Man 3 that was released before this, Thor the Dark World also faces the consequences and deals with the consequences of the Battle of New York. This time it's from Thor and Loki's perspective. Now, we open the film with a prologue from Odin about how his grandfather Bor defeated the Dark Elves and also stashed the Aether away. Then we pick up with Loki in custody of the Asgardians, and he's facing the judgment of Odin over his actions in New York and on Earth in general. It turns out Loki's actions with the Tesseract actually caused a lot more trouble than we ever saw in Avengers. Since smashing the Rainbow Bridge in Thor in order to stop Loki's actions and the events of the Avengers, all the 9 realms are basically in chaos. They're all at war because they all view Asgard as weak now, or they're trying to take over. Basically, that's what I take from it anyway. So Loki's actions and Loki's entire behavior has consequences galactically, cosmic consequences. And this film actually deals with that and investigates that and looks at that and forces Loki to face that. And this film is all about the past returning, okay? The past coming back, because the Dark Elves were a problem that they thought was dormant, and it wasn't. Jane is looking for Thor because she wants to connect with the past. Thor has to face Jane after not being able to be with her. Loki is facing the consequences of his past, of his behaviour, and then all of Asgard and all the cosmos are facing the consequences of Malekith and from the past. So that's what the theme of this film is, as I understand it, and that's what I take from it. It's about things coming back that should have been dealt with that weren't. All right? And now they need to be dealt with, and Thor has to face them, and Thor has to deal with these issues and these problems. Now, I really actually quite like this film. I know that might be a controversial thing to say, especially as an MCU Marvel fan, but I don't see why people hate on it. Yes, it's not the greatest Marvel movie, but it's certainly far from the worst Marvel movie, in my opinion. We will get to that one later on, because believe me, there is a film that I feel is far, far, far worse than Thor the Dark World. Now, this film is important for many reasons, and a couple of them are that it features one of the most important turning points in the story for the character of Loki in the death of his mum, because the guilt of that moment will carry forward all the way right into the Loki series that is currently showing on Disney Plus, which I do recommend you go watch if you've not seen it. But what Marvel fan hasn't seen Loki? Anyway, so there's that. There's the first time, this was the first time that we got introduced to the Aether, and it was described by Odin as a stone. And no, in fact, no, he didn't. What he said was sometimes other items Other singularities, he called them, are referred to as stones. He specifically said that ether is not. It's more of a liquid. However, right at the end of the film, towards the end, in the mid-credits scene, Volstagg and Lady Sif take the ether to Tanalia Tavan, the collector, and Volstagg in canon is the first person to refer to them as Infinity Stones, and he confirms that the Tesseract is actually an Infinity Stone. So from this point forward, the Infinity Stones are set in canon. Before this, they weren't. So that's another reason why this film is actually quite important in the overall story. It's also another great example of Disney doing and Marvel doing their thing of character building, because it's very similar to Iron Man, as I said earlier, Iron Man 3 that is, in that it deals with consequences of actions, because it picks up and shows you what happened after the events of the Avengers. So the Avengers was a pivotal event, and it's a tentpole moment within the Infinity Saga, and then these are the consequences after it. Now, it does feel very much like a standalone movie. There's not much connective tissue that connects it to other MCU films. However, it still feels like it's in that world, and because it deals with the consequences of it, it's like you're seeing part of a puzzle again. So it makes one feel like they're going back to the beginning of the Infinity Saga in Phase 1, where you had films like Iron Man and Thor and Captain America, where they felt like individual films, but they were puzzle pieces and they were individual pieces. And that is one thing that I think the MCU has kind of lost in recent phases, where you don't feel so much as it's building towards something like this is one little piece, and eventually when you stand back and you see the whole story, you'll see where it fits in, because this does fit in. It introduces the Infinity Stones, so it's a very important piece, and I think a lot of people actually forget that. So the 4K disc, I have to say that I didn't feel that the picture quality on this disc was as impactful or as detailed and as good as some of the other discs. It was somewhat blurry, should we say. I mean, for 4K, the definition really should be there, and it's not exactly an old film. So yeah, a little bit let down on that. I mean, the colours were bright, the sound was fantastic, the action sequences, there was no lag or anything, as there isn't with any of these discs. And I have to say that the performances of the main cast were all stellar. That's nothing to do with the disc, but they're just all brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I think that Tom Hiddleston is fantastic as Loki. And this is the one and only showing from Doctor Who himself, Christopher Eccleston, which I just wanted to give a shout out because he is brilliant in anything that he's in. Anyway, back to this. This has got the one shot on it, All Hail the King, that I mentioned last time in Iron Man 3. It is actually on Thor the Dark World disc as one of the special features. So you get 2 discs, you get great sound. Picture is okay, but probably not much better than the Blu-ray, to be fair. But I do recommend you get it if you're going to get it, because just get them all. Just get them all. They're all brilliant, and the 4K is the best way to see it because you get everything, and you get the great sound, and you get the higher definition. I don't know why I'm struggling with my words tonight, but anyway, that's irrelevant. I'm going to score this film, believe it or not, I'm going to score this 7 out of 10. I don't think it's the worst MCU movie. I happen to like this. It's not my favourite, but it's far from the worst, definitely. So Thor the Dark World, score it 7 out of 10. What do you think? What do you think of Thor the Dark World? Let me know in the comments down below. Is there anything I've missed? Is there anything that you can add to this review? And don't forget to drop me a like and subscribe, because it just helps to support the channel, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, drop us a like and subscribe to see all future content.